Check Podcasts. Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to Chamber Chats. I would like to acknowledge, as always, that I live and work in the unceded ancestral territory of the Lekwungen-speaking nations, known to us as the Songhees and the Esquimalt. As always, we are coming to you from the podcasting studios at the Czech Media Group, one of our Chamber champions, and Chamber Chats is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union. I remember when I was a younger guy, I decided that one of the really grown-up things I should do is get insurance, which I did, and I've done it ever since, and everybody should. But insurance is something that maybe somebody doesn't, or not everybody has their head around. So we want to talk about that today, especially in relationship to things like climate change and what's happened during the pandemic. A couple of people join us to talk about that. Also among our Chamber champions, Laura Bolster is the President and Chief Operations Officer and a partner at Megson Fitzpatrick, Acera. Laura, welcome.
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks for having us.
Also with us today is Luke Mills, who is a commercial account executive and risk advisor, also a partner at Megson Fitzpatrick, Acera. Luke, welcome to you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So, Laura, the name Megson Fitzpatrick has been around for generations. Very familiar, one of the best known brands in the area. But there's this Acera thing at the end of it now. Tell me about that.
Yes, that's right, Bruce. So yeah, Megson Fitzpatrick was founded in 1968. So we're a 50-plus-year-old independent insurance broker here on Vancouver Island. And our founders, Michael Megson and David Fitzpatrick, have retired a couple of years ago. And so part of our succession planning was to bring on another partner. And so we did that about 5 years ago. We brought on a company out of Calgary called Rogers Insurance. And we've been partnered with them for the past 5 years. And then just this past September, the Rogers group of companies merged with another organization called Capri CMW out of the Lower Mainland and the interior. And together, the merger formed Acera. And so we are a old organization with a brand new name, and we now are across Canada. We are an employee-owned company, which is something we're super proud of. And and we are here on Vancouver Island. We have 3 offices in the Greater Victoria, and we have a new office in Nanaimo, and we're soon to open up in the Royal Bay area as well.
So the bottom line on the name change is that the service is not impacted at all. So it's still going to be what everybody's always come to expect, Luke. That's right. Nothing's really going to change here. Just the name.
Just the name. The people are all the same. If anything, there's just more owners. So across the company, there's going to be about 1,000 employees, 600 of which will be owners by the end of May. So it's a good news story. The goal is to be independent and employee-owned and Canadian in perpetuity. And we're so excited to be able to invite the employees into ownership.
Yeah, well, where I'm sitting right now, Czech Media Group is employee-owned as well. And other Kinetic Construction companies like that are also employee-owned companies. So
exactly,
we're going to get into some of the minutiae, if you will, about insurance. But I want to talk, first of all, with you two about some of the disruptions that have been very apparent for us. Obviously, the pandemic impact the insurance sector, the insurance industry. So, Laura, I'll start with you. What's sort of been the progression of change in the insurance sector that was driven by the pandemic?
Honestly, I think we were pretty fortunate that we didn't go through a ton of change, but I would have to say the biggest change, like I think a lot of organizations, is just the work from home and the hybrid workforce, and being able to pivot and provide that opportunity to our staff when we didn't think that opportunity existed. So I think that was like a real epiphany for us, is how quickly we pivoted to a retail premise-based operation to having our team be able to work from home and continue to do the exact same job that they can do. Almost 95% of insurance can be done over the phone or via email, and that's what happened during the pandemic. And so, I guess a positive that came out of that is we still have a huge part of our workforce that are still working in either a hybrid model or they're working remotely permanently. We've been able to recruit some great new hires that have been a real advantage to us that we didn't think we would have done pre-pandemic. We've got people working all across Canada. We have people in the interior of BC, in the Kootenays, in Prince Edward Island. We have an employee in Montreal, and we've just been able to recruit new hires and have flexibility to our existing team members who have wanted to move and relocate. And so I think it's been a great retention tool and just also a recruitment tool. So I don't know. I would say that's probably from the business side of our team. That's probably been the biggest change through the pandemic. I don't know, Luke, if you.
Yeah,
I'm
I
assuming you
mean,
agree with me.
Luke, you have risk in your job title and what you do as well. Did the whole risk thing or perspective change through the pandemic?
oh yeah. I mean, especially if we all take a trip back in time to those early days. So Laura moved into the president's role March 1st of 2020. So about 2 weeks before I kind of hit the fan. And there was certainly in the early days, there was a tremendous amount of uncertainty, and our industry hates uncertainty.
Mm.
I mean, the actuaries that come up with insurance pricing and trying to foresee future events so they can arrange the appropriate insurance. Nobody had been through something like the pandemic before. So certainly in the early days, that uncertainty was difficult. I think probably the toughest part, Bruce, was for our team to see what was happening to our clients. We have so many people in this community that work, in the hospitality and tourism sectors, and they just shut down completely. So, there was a lot of, trying to handhold and seriously offer comfort and try to help guide people through an uncertain period. And there are still elements of that uncertainty today, but it was encouraging to see how we got through it as a company and as a community.
When we take a look at what you referred to, Laura, the pivots, the fact that the three of us are talking through a virtual platform, this stuff is not going to go away. That's not changed. But when you talk, as Luke did, Laura, when you talk about working with your clients, people that are feeling a challenge, especially through the pandemic, the relationship with the insurance people and the client is very important. There has to be some reassurance there and some confidence and some reliability. And that's what you guys do, right?
That's absolutely being reliable is our number one focus is just, being there, being able to talk the talk and talk our clients through what the process is, how things are going to work. It's really tough on our team, just as it's tough on our clients, right? We're delivering a lot of times, news that is unsettling, especially when it comes to the price and premium during uncertainty. And so, yeah, Luke is great he's become an expert at delivering bad news, unfortunately. And he's a real good mentor and coach for the rest of our team, because a lot of their days are spent, having really tough conversations with our client, whether it's from your home insurance or your business insurance to what Luke talked about, even, the complications of ICBC. Insurance is complicated, and you really, you do need a good, reliable broker to help the client through some tough insurance policies and information and just education, really.
If you have ever, to the listeners and viewers, ever made a claim on insurance for something that was caused by, I don't know, an act of nature, maybe a flood, maybe in your basement, maybe a tree came down, climate change is a huge factor in insurance. We want to talk about that next. Our guests on Chamber Chat today are with Megson, Fitzpatrick, Acera Insurance. Laura Bolster is the president and chief operating officer and a partner, and Luke Mills is also a partner, and a commercial account executive in risk management and a risk advisor too. So, Luke, in November of 2021, that's when the atmospheric river happened. It impacted the Lower Mainland, but it impacted us here too. So when an occurrence like that happens, and that one in particular, when people suddenly emailed or called you and you picked up the phone, what did they say? What were they talking about? What was happening?
Yeah, well, I remember that day well, because I think the first person I spoke to when I came in the office was our claim coordinator, who had said by about 6 a.m. that morning, all the restoration companies said that they had no more drying equipment left. So, yeah, I mean, from business owners to homeowners, I will say we were, I think in our part of the island and of the province, we were spared some of the real disasters that happened in the Lower Mainland. But we still had, I can't remember, we had several dozen claims. And it was just really questions of how the insurance works. The water was coming up through the perimeter drain or coming in through apertures in the windows or coming down a neighbor's driveway. And as Laura said, insurance can be complicated and the devil can be in the details. So we spent a lot of time guiding our clients through what exactly happened and took the position, where can we do our best to find you coverage, to make a case to the insurance company that your policy does provide you coverage. I think in our territory, it didn't end up being as bad as we initially thought, but it was definitely a harbinger of what people believe is to come. And I was telling Laura before, I use the expression, there's no atheists in foxholes and there's no climate change deniers in the insurance industry because they deal with the front end impacts. They have to try to assess, if there's increased windstorms, rising waters, or frequent wildfires. How do they wrap their heads around what the pricing of that and the scope of coverage should be? So, yeah, it's certainly something that's front and center in our industry.
Yeah, you talk about the fires and the heat dome that came along with that. So, Laura, this is something that's now embedded in what insurance companies do. It's always heartbreaking when there's a fire or an occurrence, and you hear in the news media that the people who suffered the damage were uninsured. Insurance is there for a reason, whether you need it or not, right? You want to know that it's there for you, right? And that's a strong point to be made.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think we see a lot of the uninsured losses in the news for tenants. I think that is kind of an area where they still don't see the need to purchase insurance. With homeowners and business owners, a lot of times you're dealing with a bank or a lender that, makes you buy insurance, where I think, tenants don't have that that added pressure to buy the policy. But that's mainly what we see in the news. And I think, again, it's an education piece because tenants insurance is really relatively straightforward. Almost everybody is insurable. And the pricing from our perspective isn't that bad when you look at it on a monthly basis, and it provides you more coverage than you think. It's not just, oh, someone steals my things. My things aren't really valuable to me, so I don't care. It's more if you're liable for a claim, if you're the one that maybe started the fire or started the flood or left your tap on, you've got coverage for that. If you need to be relocated to live somewhere else, which is a big part of the expense, that's included in this relatively cost-effective product. And again, I just think it's a lack of education, to the general public on these types of policies that are available.
And I guess the obvious question, too, that people wonder about is if you do file a claim on something, what's that going to do to your rates, insurance rates? So, Luke, how often do you get that question, and what's the answer?
We get it a lot, especially in, personal insurance, they kind of have rates, and then there's a series of credits or surcharges based on different criteria. Claims, no claims, do you have an alarm system, no alarm system? When it comes to vehicle insurance, what's the age and experience of the drivers? Commercial insurance is a bit more nuanced. It is more of a negotiation with the insurers. So we as the brokers have to tell a good story. If there's a claim, we try to give a context. Was it an accident or was it something to do with, deferred maintenance? But we do our best to, look at the history of the client and the insurance they've had over years to say, well, this is one claim out of X number of years. It's a profitable account. It's a well-run business, and it shouldn't be used against them. But really, we're subject to these market cycles, right? And sometimes insurance companies are competing for business and they're willing to look past claims and there won't be a negative impact. But the cycle that we're in, and we have been for the last 3 or 4 years, is what we refer to as a hard market, where insurance companies are underwriting by the book. So it's a little bit more challenging right now than it was in an easier market pre-pandemic.
Those of us who live here are at risk of something that our friends and relatives in the rest of the country don't really think about very often, and that's an earthquake. We're going to talk about that next. On Chamber Chats today, we're talking about insurance and things you need to know with Laura Bolster and Luke Mills from Megson, Fitzpatrick, Acera. So, before climate change was in our face, Laura, before we dealt with these atmospheric rivers and heat domes every day, the number one concern with people who lived here was earthquakes. And the idea of earthquake insurance has been in conversations for a while. Where's it at as of now?
Well, again, it's complicated, Bruce, it's really complicated. But yeah, it's one of those perils of insurance that is a little bit of an unknown here, because it's not like floods and hail and fires. It's perils that do happen, and so we have history, and we have experiences that we can tap into. We haven't had the earthquake, and so it is a little bit of an unknown, but it's something, that is talked about almost all day, every day in our business, with our customers, with our insurance partners, and it's hard. It's a tough one. It definitely could use some more education to the public. Why is my premium so high? What are my deductibles? How do my deductibles work? We could do a whole other segment just on earthquake, but the reality is, all of the statistics show that Vancouver Island, the Lower Mainland, is susceptible to having an earthquake, and all the insurance companies, they all do it slightly different, but they run, reports and statistics on the ground, on the earth, and all of these things to figure out who's in the zone, and then they decide if they're willing to write in that zone. And if they are willing to write in that zone, this is the premium they need, and this is the deductible they need. And so we're kind of navigating all the different areas that the insurance companies look at, and just trying to educate our customers the best that we can on and we don't have any other solution right now. There is lots of work being done with the government to come up with sort of a different alternative for earthquake, but right now it's all on the insurance. Luke.
Yeah. If I could add to that, Laura, the last point she touched on is it is unique here in British Columbia. Most countries that have areas that are exposed to earthquake, there is usually some kind of government contribution to whatever the earthquake insurance scheme is, in Japan, California, New Zealand. We don't have that here. Right now, it's entirely insured by private insurance companies. And over the years, as we see the values of our cities grow, as we have more buildings and the value of those buildings grows, the insurance companies, there's concern, could the insurance companies, in the event that we do have a major earthquake, do they have the financial wherewithal to be able to cover the most catastrophic event? So there's active lobbying right now to try to get the government maybe involved, or at least get that discussion going if we should have some kind of government involvement. In the meantime, the insurance companies also buy insurance. The risk of getting too far into the weeds, it's called reinsurance. So they make sure, because if they're worried about any kind of financial shortfalls and to meet regulatory requirements, they buy insurance. But that insurance is getting scarcer and it's getting more expensive. So when the insurance they buy gets more expensive, it gets passed down to the retail level and ultimately onto the customer. So we're seeing sometimes, like in a typical single family home in Victoria, probably close to half of your premium, if you bought earthquake insurance, is for the earthquake portion of your insurance.
Yeah, we see these regional things, like we have earthquake insurances here. Parts of the country have crop insurance, right, in areas that are more strongly in agriculture. But when we talk about those disruptions, Laura, I'll go to you for this. The disruptions we saw in the supply chain because of lack of productivity, things weren't happening during the pandemic. The climate changes made changes happen. So when you're doing a restoration, a remediation, a repair or something on an insurance claim, supply chain has been interrupted. That's a huge factor, right?
Absolutely. And Luke probably, deals with this more on a day-to-day basis with his clients, but it really is. And then, if you have, a catastrophic loss or even a semi one, it just puts everybody at a disadvantage, because there's too much to handle, as opposed to one fire claim, compared to 50 fires, all at the same time. That's a huge impact on that.
Yeah, well, and the supply chain disruptions have impacted a number of things. So it's really catapulted construction inflation, which impacts insurance. So if your building cost $1 million to replace a couple of years ago and it's now 1.25 million, you're buying insurance on 1.25 million. If you have a claim and you're waiting for a specific part, or your mates, let's say elevators are famously difficult right now to get some parts for, that's going to extend the period of your claim. And if it shuts down the reopening of your building, say your apartment building, you can't get your tenants in there, or you're losing more rental income, and therefore your insurance policy is paying out more rental income. So yes, we are seeing these supply chain disruptions, construction inflation, all of these things are adding to the cost of insurance for individuals and businesses.
So as you mentioned too, you can do your insurance business on the phone. You can do it online, certainly, that's for sure, as well as in person. But throughout the pandemic, as we rely on technology as we are right now, cybersecurity has been a huge issue, Laura, because people are getting hacked, they're being cheated. What's the risk in the insurance industry with the cybercrime and cyber threats?
I'm going to defer to my friend Luke
Okay.
again, because this is definitely more his area of expertise, and he's in this every day, all day.
Yeah, well, thank you, Laura. Happy to field that, but it is, the way I think about it, like we think about it as business owners. Like in our island offices, we have 120 odd people who, if something happened with our network, can't do their job, can't access information, can't help their clients. So it's something that keeps me up and that we spend a lot of time and resources into making sure it doesn't happen. But any business that relies on technology to any degree has some type of exposure to this, whether it's a network failure, a ransomware attack, doxing, you name it. So, and we've seen the real-time impacts. We've seen clients of ours that are charities or for-profit businesses be impacted alike. So we really try to guide our clients through, yes, you can get insurance, and I highly recommend it, and the scope of coverage can be terrific. But first, what are the things you can do at a business or a personal level to help prevent exposure to those attacks? And once you kind of button those things down, multi-factor authentication is, say one example, then you can start working your way through the other risk exposures and explore insurance. But, I often compare it how different cyber risk is to, say, fire. Like fire, we know. Fire is fire. We have sprinkler systems. We do fire drills to keep people safe. We have extinguishers. We have a fire department. And we know what the risk is, and we've lived with it, as long as people have walked the earth. Cyber's changing all the time. So we have to change with it and evolve to understand and try to understand what tomorrow's risks are going to be. So yes, that is a risk that is going to be with us as long as we depend on technology.
Thank you both for your time today. Laura Bolster is the President and Chief Operations Officer and a partner at Megson, Fitzpatrick, Acera Insurance, and Luke Mills is a Commercial Account Executive, Risk Advisor, and a partner. So, insurance is your friend. Thank you both for being here today. I'm Bruce Williams. We'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.